I still remember the story my grandmother Della used to tell me about the hottest August of 1934. The summer the milk soured on every porch on the road, except hers. There was no refrigerator in that farmhouse, and no freezer either. And yet through the worst of that heat, my grandmother kept her butter firm, her eggs good, and her vegetables sound. And she wasted almost nothing. Not one potato, not one. Because she knew a thing that has all but disappeared in a single generation. She knew where the cool hides in a house, even in the dead of summer, and how to hand her food over to it before the heat could take it. Here is what the supermarket will never print on a sign. Food does not spoil because it is old, it spoils because it is kept wrong. The average household today carries its groceries in from the car and throws close to a third of them in the bin before they are ever eaten. And in the long heat of summer, when the counter goes warm by noon and the crisper drawer cannot keep up, it gets worse. My grandmother lost almost nothing in the hottest August or the coldest January, because she knew where the cool lived and how to hand her food over to it. So here are 25 forgotten ways my grandmother made food last, so that nothing in her kitchen ever went to waste, in the summer heat or the winter cold. Stay for number 7, the $5 box that kept her carrots sweet for months. Number 14 is the one the fresh-keeping gadget people would rather you never build. And number 1 still runs on nothing but the cool already sitting in the ground under your own house. Tap that subscribe button and come sit with me a while, because you and I are here to spend less, waste nothing, and keep the old kitchen wisdom the supermarket would just as soon you forget. Number 25. And it starts before you ever get home. Do not overbuy. The most expensive food in your whole kitchen is the food you bought and never ate. And the supermarket knows it better than you do. That is the entire purpose of the giant cart and the 2-for-1 sign at the end of the aisle. They would far rather sell you 3 of a thing that softens and rots than 1 you will actually finish, because they get paid either way and you eat the loss. Lydia Maria Child wrote the rule down in 1832 in a little book called The American Frugal Housewife, and it has not aged a single day. Do not let the beauty of this thing and the cheapness of that tempt you to buy unnecessary articles. So look past the big loud number and find the honest one, the price per ounce in fine print at the bottom of the shelf tag. And remember that a bigger box is not always cheaper per ounce, and a store brand bag most weeks runs 1/5 to 1/4 below the name brand for the very same goods. Then buy the amount your household will eat before it turns. A bargain that goes soft in the crisper drawer was never a bargain at all. It was just the store getting paid twice. Number 24. Before you ever reach for the meat, price the eggs. My grandmother kept no loyalty to the meat case, and neither do I. Some weeks, supper on County Road 6 was scrambled eggs, and she never called that going without. She called it good sense. The United States Department of Agriculture put the plain arithmetic in a bulletin named Money-Saving Main Dishes, and the rule of thumb is simple enough to do in the aisle. Eggs are the better protein buy when 8 large eggs cost less than a pound of meat carrying some bone and fat like a rump roast, or when a dozen eggs cost less than a pound of lean meat like round steak. You glance at both prices and you build the meal around whichever one is cheaper that Tuesday. And here is why it earns a place on a no-waste list at all. A dozen eggs will keep good in the cold for weeks, while a pricey cut you grabbed on a whim goes grey in the back of the fridge in 3 days and gets scraped into the trash on Sunday. Buy the protein you will actually finish. There is no shame in the cheaper supper. There is only sense. Number 23. When the food first comes in, cull the blemished ones first. Spread the whole harvest out on a clean, dry surface, or spread the whole grocery haul across the counter and go through it piece by piece with your hands, not your eyes only. Anything cut, bruised, cracked, or the least bit soft goes into one pile, and that pile gets eaten this week, in a soup, a stew, or straight onto tonight's plate. Only the sound, unmarked ones, go into storage. One bruised potato sitting in the bin will rot a dozen good ones around it before you ever notice a thing. And the National War Garden Commission was warning housewives about exactly that back in 1918. Now here is the trade you are actually making. The sorting takes about 10 minutes. Skipping it costs you a third of the bin come February. 10 honest minutes against a third of everything you grew or hauled home. That was never a hard bargain to strike. Della did it at the kitchen table every single autumn, small hands moving fast, and the ruined ones never once got the chance to pull the good ones down into the dark with them. Number 22. Eat the small ones first. When you go to the bin or the crisper drawer, reach for the little carrots, the small potatoes, the runt onions, and leave the big, handsome ones for later. It sounds backward, and it is the opposite of how most of us shop, grabbing the biggest ones and letting the small ones drift to the bottom of the bag. But a smaller root carries less starch in reserve, so it softens sooner and simply will not keep as long as its bigger neighbour. Use the little ones while they are good, and save the big ones for the deep of the winter, when they will still be holding firm. My grandma had a line for it, the way she had a line for nearly everything worth remembering. Eat the small ones first, she would say, and the big ones will still be waiting for you in February. Number 21. Hang a thermometer wherever your food sleeps. The cellar, the coldest corner of the basement, the back of a cool closet, wherever it is you keep the roots and the jars. For a few dollars at any hardware store, you can buy a little dial thermometer, the kind that remembers the high and the low it saw while you were upstairs. And the moment you own one, you stop guessing. Because a cold corner you never actually measure is not a storage plan. It is a wish with a coat on. The old War Garden Bulletin from 1918 told people to hang the thermometer and glance at it every single time they went down to pull a meal. And that is still the whole of it. You cannot hold a temperature you refuse to look at. And this entire list, as you are about to hear, comes down in the end to holding one steady temperature. Number 20. Give the pile some air. Store your roots and your onions in slatted crates or open baskets, never sealed up in a solid box or knotted into a plastic sack. The gaps in a slat crate let the air move around every single potato instead of trapping the damp against its skin. And trapped damp is where rot begins its quiet work. The War Garden Commission preferred slat crates and open baskets for exactly this reason more than 100 years ago. Stack them so the air can travel between them and leave a little space at the top rather than jamming a lid down tight on the load. Your food wants to breathe on its way through the winter, the same as you and I do on a close August night. Number 19. Keep every bin under 3 bushels. There is a comfortable notion that the fuller the bin, the safer the winter. A big, proud mountain of potatoes standing in for plenty. The opposite is the truth. A deep pile heats up from the centre, where the air can never reach. And by Christmas, you go down and find half of it gone soft and sweet in the middle, where you cannot see. The War Garden Commission set the ceiling at 2 or 3 bushels to a bin, no more, and the reason is plain money. 3 small crates cost you exactly what 1 big barrel costs, and 3 small crates let you lose 1 without losing all 3. You are not saving space when you pile it deep and proud. You are stacking your entire winter in a single basket and daring the middle of it to heat. Number 18. If your cellar floor is bare concrete, lay 2 or 3 inches of damp sand right across it. Concrete pulls the moisture out of the air and lets the temperature lurch with every cold snap outside, and both of those are hard on stored food. A few inches of damp sand over that floor does 2 quiet jobs at once while you sleep. It holds humidity, so your roots do not go leathery and hollow, and it works like a heavy anchor on the temperature, steadying the swings, so a hard, cold night outdoors never becomes a hard, cold shock inside. The 1918 bulletin spelt it out in 1 line: sand over the concrete, sprinkled with a little water from time to time. It is the cheapest floor you will ever lay in your life, and it keeps right on working every hour you are not down there to watch it. Number 17. Leave an inch of top on your beets, your turnips and your carrots when you trim them. Do not scalp them clean at the crown the way the grocery store does for the shelf. Cut the leaves back, but leave about an inch of stem standing, because a root cut flush at the top will bleed and dry itself out through that open wound, while a root left with its little collar of stem holds all its moisture and keeps for months. The old growers knew it in their hands, and the War Garden Commission set it down in print in 1918. An inch of top prevents bleeding and drying out. It is a small mercy, that inch. But a carrot does not seem to know it has been harvested if you never cut it to the quick, and it will lie there in the sand, keeping as calmly as if it were still in the ground. Number 16. Cure it before you keep it. An onion, a winter squash, a head of garlic, not one of them is truly ready for storage the same day you pull it up. Spread them out in the shade, up on a porch floor or a barn board for a few days first, and let the outer skins dry down and tighten into that papery armour. That dry skin is the seal that carries the onion all the way through the winter. Set a soft, green-necked onion straight down into storage, and it will rot from the neck down inside the month. Give it those few unhurried days in the shade first, and Lydia Maria Child's 200-year-old advice does the rest of the work for free. Those few days are not lost time. They are the first days of the keeping. Number 15. Hang the onions dry and never carry them down into the damp cellar with the roots. Onions are proud vegetables. They flatly refuse to share a wet cellar with the carrots and the beets. Keep them instead in the driest, airiest spot in the whole house, a cool attic corner, a mesh bag hung from a rafter, a shallow tray on a high shelf, and they will keep 4 to 6 months for no cost at all. Put them down in the damp with the roots, and they will be soft and sprouting inside a month, the whole basketful. Lydia Maria Child put it as plainly as it can be put in 1832. Onions should be kept very dry and never carried into the cellar except in severe weather. 200 years on, that is still exactly right to the letter. Kept dry and aired, they cost you nothing and last you half the year. Left in the damp, they cost you the entire basket by Thanksgiving. Number 14. The one I promised you. Della kept butter and hard cheese cool without a scrap of ice on a shelf in the north corner of the pantry, and any farmhouse builder of her day could have told you exactly why it worked. Cut 2 small vents into a cabinet built against your coolest outside wall, the north face or the east. 1 vent down low near the floor, 1 up high near the ceiling, both of them screened on the outside against insects. Slap the shelves so the air moves freely, and the cool outdoor air rises up through that cabinet all on its own, by plain convection, no compressor, no cord, no monthly charge to anyone. Della called hers the North Wall cupboard, and it held her butter and her hard cheese right through the cool seasons. Now, the fresh-keeping gadget people have built themselves an entire aisle to solve this same little problem for you. Vacuum bins, oxygen absorber bags, battery pods that beep in the dark. Your great-grandmother solved the whole thing with 2 holes in a wall and a square of window screen. One honest warning before you build it. In the dead heat of a real summer, this cupboard will not hold dairy safe, so keep it to root vegetables and hard cheese in the warm months, and let your refrigerator carry the butter. In the cool of spring and fall, though, it is free cold straight off the wall, and the gadget aisle can keep its beeping. Number 13. Keep the apples away from the potatoes. This one is completely invisible, and it quietly costs people a bin of potatoes every winter without their ever once suspecting the cause. An apple gives off a gas as it sits in the dark, ethylene, and that gas whispers to a potato lying beside it to wake up early and sprout. Store the 2 of them shoulder to shoulder, and you have set them at war without meaning to. Keep your apples in one corner and your potatoes in another, well apart, and keep the onions off to themselves, the way we said back at number 15, and every one of them will keep as it should. The Canadian Department of Agriculture flagged this in a root cellar bulletin all the way back in 1923. 2 good keepers can spoil each other just by sitting too close. Set them apart and they both keep. Number 12. Learn the smell of sweet rot. A root cellar in good order smells like plain, clean earth and nothing more. The day one potato begins to go somewhere down in the dark, the whole room turns faintly, sickly sweet. And that smell is the bin talking to you before your eyes could ever find the guilty one. The war garden people knew that sweet smell meant a potato had started to heat and break down somewhere deep in the pile. When you catch it on the stairs, you do not wait until tomorrow morning. You open every single bin that same day, and you find the one before it takes the 10 around it. My grandmother could name it from the top of the cellar steps without going down. She would come up wiping her hands on her apron and say, "One of them has turned," and she was never wrong about it. And she never once let it spread. We are halfway down the list now, and I want you to know that I have done every single one of these with my own 2 hands, in my own kitchen, this very year. Number 11. Walk your stores once a week and pull the one before it takes the 10. Storing food is not a thing you do in October and forget clean about until spring. Every week or 2 you go down and you look, really look, and you put your hand on things. The moment a vegetable feels soft, or a jar has gone cloudy, or that sweet smell from number 12 begins to rise, you take that one out the same day. Do not try to cut around the bad part of a soft potato and save the rest of it. Get it out entirely and use the sound ones now. The 1918 bulletin said, check every week or 2, and it remains the single cheapest insurance policy there is anywhere. One rotten vegetable, left to sit 1 week too long, is precisely how a full bin quietly becomes an empty one. Pull the one, and you keep all the rest. Number 10. Put the summer eggs down in lime water. This is a genuinely old one, a real 19th century method, and I'm going to hand it to you honest, corners and all. When the hens were generous through the warm months and eggs were plentiful and cheap, the farm wife did not let the surplus simply walk off. She dissolved a pint of coarse salt and a pint of unslaked lime into a pailful of water. Let it settle until the liquid ran clear. Checked with care that not one egg was cracked, because a single cracked egg will spoil the entire crock. And she covered the sound eggs in that lime water and set the crock in a cold place. Lydia Maria Child, in 1832, wrote that eggs kept this exact way came out perfectly sweet and fresh at the end of 3 years. Now, I will be plain with you, the way I always will be. Modern food safety says refrigerate your eggs, and the sensible aim today is a few months and not 3 years, and you treat this as the heritage practice that it is. But there is something in the picture of it. A woman in a hot August kitchen, quietly putting next winter's breakfast down in a stone crock, certain there would be a winter, and certain she would meet it fed, that I have never quite been able to set down. Number 9. On a warm afternoon, hang a wet canvas by the cellar vent. Some September days the cellar runs warmer than you would like, the last of the summer heat still lingering down in the ground. Here is the spring house trick the old farms leaned on long before anybody owned a machine to do the job. Wet a piece of canvas or a length of burlap in cold water and hang it right beside the low vent. As that water evaporates, it pulls the heat straight out of the air passing over it, and it will drop the cellar a few degrees on a hot afternoon for the whole price of a bucket of water. It is the very same evaporating that cools you when a breeze crosses a wet shirt on the line. A bucket of water standing in for a compressor, and the bucket asks the power company for absolutely nothing. It will not add a single penny to your bill because it does not know how to. Number 8. Buy your eggs in the flush, not a dumb dozen at a time. Eggs are cheapest twice a year, in early spring and again in the middle and the end of September, when the hens are laying their hardest. The Department of Agriculture still tracks that seasonal swing, and it runs a full 20 to 30% between the spring low and the winter high. So the old advice was to buy in the cheap months and lay a stock by, rather than dribbling out for a few at a time all year long at whatever the shelf feels like charging you that morning. If you would rather not keep a lime crock going, the modern version is easy enough. Take clean, unwashed eggs, wipe each one with a thin film of mineral oil to seal the shell, and hold them in a cool, dark place for months. Buy them when the hens are generous, not when the shelf is greedy. Number 7. The $5 box I promised you, clear back at the top. This is the one that made a believer out of me as a girl. Della had no refrigerator, and what is more, she did not want one. She had a wooden box, a bag of clean sand, and Lydia Maria Child's 1832 instructions. And out of that box she pulled sweet, snapping carrots in March that had gone in the October before. You trim the tops the way we said in number 17, lay an inch of just damp sand across the bottom of the box, set the carrots or beets down in a single layer so that none of them touch, cover them over with more sand, and keep right on layering, root and sand, until the box is full to the top. It is the very same damp sand from number 18, only now it is cradling each separate root instead of covering the floor. The sand mimics the cool, damp earth those roots just came up out of, and that mimicry is the whole of the secret. A £50 bag of play sand costs under $5, and keeps 30 to 40 pounds of carrots and beets, sound and sweet, from October clear into January. $5 of sand against a whole winter of fresh carrots. That bag pays for itself in full the first supper you lift out of it in December. Number 6. Write the date on every jar the day you put it by. Everyone alive is dead certain they will remember which jar is the oldest. Not one of us ever does. An unmarked shelf is exactly how a family gets to February and finds pickles where they were sure they had put peaches. A whole summer of canning gone dark and nameless at the back of the shelf. A strip of masking tape and a marker, 30 seconds a jar, and you never wonder again for the rest of the year. The Department of Agriculture wrote it into a bulletin in 1977, and my grandmother had the identical rule 40 years before that pamphlet was ever printed. Name it, date it, and set it where your own eye will land on it. Home canned goods hold their best quality about a year in a cool, dark pantry, and a dated label is the only way on this earth to know where you stand inside that year. Name it and date it. That is the whole of the system, and the whole of it costs you 30 seconds. Number 5. Keep a running list by the pantry door. This is the humblest habit on the entire list, and it may well be the one most completely lost to us now. By the cellar door, Della kept a little notebook and a stub of a pencil hung on a nail. Every jar she carried down got a line written in it, and every jar she carried back up got crossed off, so that at any hour of any day she could stand at the top of those stairs and know precisely what the house had left to eat without lifting a single crate. The 1977 bulletin called it keeping a record, with a place to check each item off as you use it. When you put new stock away, you move the older jars up to the front and pull from the front first, so nothing ever gets buried in the back of the dark. I still keep that notebook by my own basement door to this day. The very same nail. It is the closest thing to her handwriting I have left anywhere in the house. Number 4. Hold the cellar between 35 and 50 degrees. If you carry off one number from this whole long list, carry off that range, because it is the entire game in 5 words. Below 35, your carrots freeze and go to mush the moment they thaw. Above 50, they sprout and rot well before Christmas. 35 to 50, and that cold corner earns its keep all winter long. The War Garden Bulletin of 1918 gave that exact range, not less than 35, not more than 50, and 100 years of American cellars have not managed to improve on it by a degree. This is the reason you hung the thermometer back at number 21. On a cold fall morning, you open the low vent to pull that cold air in, and on a bitter freezing night, you do the very opposite, which is coming up next. Hold the range, and every other thing on this list is only the tending of what the range keeps for you. Number 3. Work the vents with the weather. A cold cellar is not a sealed box. It is a room you breathe on purpose with the outdoors. It wants a low vent down near the floor and a high vent up near the ceiling. On a crisp fall morning, when the air outside is colder than the air down in the cellar, you open the low vent and let that heavy cold air pour in and settle along the floor, and you close the high one so the cold stays put down low instead of drifting up and slipping out. That is precisely how you draw the whole room down into the range without spending 1 cent to do it. The old bulletins built every farm cellar in the country this way. 2 vents, high and low, worked by a careful hand against the mood of the day. Read the morning, open the right vent, and let the free outdoors do all of your cooling for you. Number 2. And it is the one night you do the exact opposite of number 3. When the thermometer outside drops below freezing, you do not want that air anywhere near your cellar, because now it has turned cold enough to freeze your roots solid and ruin the lot of them. So you plug the vents. Fold a rag into each one, or a piece of burlap the way my grandmother always did, and seal the freezing cold out until the weather softens again, then open them back up. The Canadian Root Cellar Bulletin of 1923 said it in plain farm words. When there is danger of freezing, shut off the ventilation for a while. You want your food cold like a good root, not frozen through like a stone. There is a real difference between the two, and by the time March comes around, your potatoes will know exactly which one you chose for them. And number 1, the one plain thing that ties every other item on this list together. The cold cellar itself. The free refrigerator that has been sitting in the ground under your house the entire time. Everything I have told you today, the sand, the vents, the thermometer, the small bins, the dated jars, all of it exists to serve this one plain fact of the world. A few feet down, the earth holds a steady 35 to 40 degrees straight through the winter, for nobody's money at all. You do not need a farmhouse, and you do not need Della's cellar. You need the coldest corner of your basement, most often the northeast one, against an outside wall, a wooden crate, and that $5 thermometer. A bushel of apples or potatoes that would have gone soft on your warm summer counter inside of a week will keep down in that cold corner clear through February. Della never wasted a potato, not one, because she knew where the cold lived in her house, and she handed her food over to it every autumn of her life. And here is the part the supermarket and the appliance showroom would truly rather you never sit quietly with. They will sell you a second refrigerator, a chest freezer, a whole drawer of special bags, the entire gleaming showroom of keeping your food fresh, by the month and by the machine, and by the little battery pod that beeps. The cold already in the ground does the very same work, and it has never sent a single soul a bill. That north wall cupboard back at number 14 was the small, tidy version of this. This, number 1, is the whole thing itself. People look back at a kitchen run this way and call it poverty. It was nothing of the kind, and that is the part I most want you to carry away with you tonight. My grandmother was not scraping, and she was not making do. She was running a kitchen that respected what it had cost to grow the food, and paid that cost back by wasting none of it. The cold corner, the box of sand, the dated jar, the notebook hung on the nail, none of that was going without. That was a woman who refused to throw away what she had worked to bring home, in a world that had not yet figured out how to sell her the throwing away by the month. You have that same cold corner somewhere in your own house tonight. You always did. So tell me one thing down in the comments, because I read them at this very table. What is the one food your family never let go to waste? And how did you use it up? The heel of the bread, the bacon grease in the can, the last of the Sunday roast turned into Wednesday's soup. Tell me down below, and tell me who it was that taught it to you. And if this sat right with you, subscribe and keep the porch light in your view, because you and I are going to keep every one of these old kitchen habits lit, the ones the supermarket would just as soon you forgot you ever knew. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.